first episode of Next Aventure. Spelled incorrectly because ancient English. Anyway. So, I searched the web due to a project I've been doled out at Centennial College, and my final year here, I hope. The project is, well, okay, I'm to create a podcast. Now, I had literally never listened to any sort of podcast in my life. That is, until this assignment being dropped upon me, and I thought, okay, I'd better figure out what the, pick your expletive here, I was actually trying to do. I sat in my video chat classroom, COVID of course, and listened to the various podcasts that seemingly everyone in my class, besides myself, was a huge fan of. Pick a topic. Any topic. Pick a demographic. Any demographic. I spent a week listening to my first podcasts. Oh god, are some of them insanely annoying. Maybe I am too. That said, some were interesting as well. However, I kept wondering, no more expletives, what am I going to use? How am I going to relate to any sort of audience? Sure, I have other stories and adventures I've been on, some pretty crazy ones actually, but I need something that would actually be like a valid idea. So I went online and began searching for any others, like I was sort of thinking, and surprise! I really had no luck. For those two very nice girls out there in Alberta, I heard, well, I can see what you were getting at financially. It's really not a place anyone in my area doesn't suit. Be nice. There's a hell of a lot more to a mature student than simply talking about financial options. Trust me. Are there not more with this topic I'm throwing out here? Is it simply generational? Are we not podcast people? Gen X and up? One thing I did notice as my classmates were talking about their favorites and when they listened, what they were doing, is that they seemed to listen to them the same way baby boomers play with the radio all damn day, inescapably through their homes. Paul Simon was yearning for a sound of silence because, well, okay, at some point we can perhaps discuss. Is this purely generational? Or does where I'm starting here just come back to ADHD? Perhaps it's somewhere in the middle since, well, there didn't seem to be much of a forum for those of us similar to my plight. So I'll make one. I introduce an idea of this perhaps being a forum, a place for other mature students to share their stories and/or advice for both current and prospective mature students. The industries and job markets continue to change at a rate that only accelerates each day. Sometimes that rate even feels alarming. That said, for any listener of the mature student demographic, it's also a matter of community because, well, sometimes that is certainly not felt from within the class around us. I'd love to hear others sharing what I've come to know. I'll reach out, I'll try and find some stories. I'm not picky on the mood of them. Of course, everyone could use some humor right now, but yeah. This podcast as an assignment only needs to happen this one time. But, if people want to hear or know more, however, there's no reason we can't all create a community around this. Yes, I've reached out. Who knew Facebook could be that useful? We're going to have a forum here, everyone, to hear the reasons, the advice, and hopefully some good stories of what will essentially be three generations who have had to return to school, except this time without mom, dad outfitting with new supplies, one outfit, new backpack, you get the idea. I'm not going to sit here and blab on and on and on about life's challenges. Pretty sure my job is mostly to tell the stories of others. I guess I should sort through these. Maybe a little about me, I guess. My name's Jeremy Taylor. Real name was taken. I had a huge break of nearly 20 years between my bouts with post-secondary education. My reasons? Now, perhaps I can share more, but it was a unique set of challenges, totally separating myself from my career, and yeah. I left my university before some of my current classmates were even born. Oddly enough, that detail never really occurred to me as I registered. I kept thinking, all right, I'm going to go back to an area where I had originally intended career-wise. I thought, hey, I get to know classmates, make some new friends perhaps, and as I said, I never really did think of that age gap until the first day I walked into the school. First, I walked in through the front doors of the building and just could not shake the idea that the area was familiar to me. It wasn't until the second or third day when someone finally answered that for me and let me know I was a student sitting in what was Degrassi Junior High. This is sort of off topic. Back to the first day. I wasn't even really noticing the overall demographic of everyone around me. There were people playing piano in the main hallway. I had several people nodding to me as a sort of hello. Most of them were staff, thinking I was a co-worker. No, I kept looking for what I had written down, wondering what I had finally found until the first class. I walked through that door, and then it hit me. I was more than double the age of my classmates. I smiled. I said hello. I began searching the room for anyone, besides our professor, that is, who was at least close to my demographic age-wise. No luck. I was thankfully approached by one of the classmates who introduced himself, and I finally exhaled. I'll stop there for the intro. How many of you out there know exactly what I am talking about? Someday I'll come back to all of this, but let's instead introduce a person who had that break, but needed to reassemble and build things back up. Our first representative of the forum. Let's go with Warrior. Yeah, Warrior is Nick Morrison.
So, why don't we kick this off with, what were you doing before you went back?
Well, I had been doing a few things. My original undergrad was a combination degree in drama and education. So I have exactly the same credentials that would qualify me to be the Prime Minister of Canada. However, that, I didn't really envy a life in politics, and I knew that I didn't really want to be a teacher. I had done a little bit of it, but I couldn't deal with it, and I just walked away from that. So I actually sold cars for a period of about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years.
You too. I think that's what we do.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It seemed like a way to make a butt ton of money and, not have to work too hard, which it was. I made a ridiculous amount of money in that 2 years, but I really hated myself. I didn't love the career. And, I was that guy that when people came on the lot, I was like, all right, your money's my money now. I'm slamming you into this, minivan in cerulean blue, and I don't care what you have to say about it. I was that guy, and I was good at it, and people loved me, and people loved to,
When you're there for free, it's amazing how quickly you have to get good at that.
Yeah, exactly. After my 18th or 19th month, well, I shouldn't even say my 18th or 19th month. I think it was probably about 14 or 15 months in. I was like, wow, this is just ridiculous. I can't keep doing this. I've got to either go back to school and, change tax completely, and redo, my whole life, or I really need to kind of go all in on this other thing that I had really wanted. So, obviously, like I said, I got the degree in drama and education, but I actually minored in music. And so I decided to go back to school to study music full time.
There you go.
Another fantastic choice.
But define security.
Right? Define security. But it was a great choice. And I set my sights really high. So I decided, I was like, well, if I'm going to go and do this, I'm going to do it like the absolute top level. I applied at Berklee College of Music. I got in, and then I went. And it was a fun trip, and I'm really grateful for the experience, and it really opened up a lot of doors for me, and it allowed me to do a lot of the things and have a lot of the professional success that I've had since that time. Had I not gone back to school, looking back on it, there's a lot of things I could have done with $150,000. But
it comes in handy. Yeah.
But it was a formative time in my life, and I wouldn't change it for the world, because all of that stuff that I went through has led to this point where I'm at now, and I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have my house. I wouldn't have my life. I wouldn't have my wife. I wouldn't have my current career. All of that kind of stuff ties back to that decision that I made when I was 24. That I was like, okay, I gotta change and go back and try again.
So you got to Berklee. Mm-hmm. And you were, 24?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
How old was the class around you? Were they right around the same? Or I mean, it's not a huge gap, but
Well, it's big enough though. I mean, I can't remember I want to say Maslow, but that's like more like foundational psychology. But there's a developmental psychologist that talks about the human brain, and really, you're not a fully formed human until you're like 28 or 29. So, I mean, I wasn't even really like a fully formed person yet, but the people that I was going to school with, and of course, when you and I were in school, we had grade 13 or OAC, right? Ontario Academic Credits.
magical year, yeah.
Yeah.
Grade 14 in some cases. I know
Yeah.
bonus lap.
But so I had already been through high school for one extra year than most other people. Then I had been out of university and then into the workforce for 2 years. So, in the States, they don't have grade 13. They don't have OAC. So those kids are graduating when they're 17 and then going to school in the fall. So they're either 17 or 18. So yeah, there's a huge gap in age and maturity level and kind of everything.
Yeah,
it's interesting
the
too.
problem is, well, okay, you tell me.
Well,
you say that, but you can't tell them that.
No, certainly not. And I mean, I was in like a dirty shirt and I didn't care. I was like, whatever, I'm here. Let's have fun with it and let's go. The only difference, of course, that I was over the legal drinking age, so I was everybody's best friend. Because of course in the U.S. it's 21, right? Unlike Canada, so it was. I was the guy that was very, very, very popular to invite to parties on Fridays and Saturdays, which was not a horrible position to be in, let me tell you.
No, you could do worse.
Yeah, but I think with a college that specific, kind of like I think where you're going now, like it's you're very focused on a single task, really, like media production, like that kind of thing. Berkeley's music, it's like that's what you go to study there. It's not like you're hanging out with like a bunch of psych majors and then education majors and then phys ed people and then biochemists and mathematicians. It's like everybody's a musician. So even though, I was going to school with like 17, 18-year-olds and even the graduating class, which was like 21, 22, everybody was very similar in their mindset of learning and doing and exploring and sharing and connecting with other people to make music, learn about music, share music. Like I feel kind of lucky in that respect.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, similarities are a good thing. So, okay, that like you said, not a huge gap, but enough of one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I know that I had 20 years.
Right. So that's a bit of
majority of my class.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't know half of what I reference.
Yep.
What would you say is your best? What anything stick out to you? That gap really kind of, I mean, granted you were the DD.
Yeah. Well, yeah. DD and, designated buyer, as it were.
Nice.
I think the biggest thing was, well, I mean, again, right. So that sort of 5-year difference, like when you and I were going to school first time undergrad, like, I'm sure you remember Napster and like LimeWire and like all of the file sharing stuff, right? So that was kind of just coming into its infancy and growing when you and I were in school. By the time I went back, it was in full force. Everybody was sharing everything. Everybody had an iPod and everybody was listening to like, well, maybe not even listening, but like they all had libraries of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of music tracks, and I was still rocking a Discman. Right. Actually, no, it wasn't a Discman. I had a mini Discman, a Sony mini Discman. And everybody was like, wow, that is like some ancient technology. And I'm like, what? I just bought this. It's amazing.
Hey, look out. Come on. They had the reinforcements so they didn't skip.
Yeah, exactly. And they were great. I loved mini discs. And you could use them to record. So like I would record lectures on them and I would record jam sessions and, my private lessons and all that kind of stuff. Right. So it was a very super useful tool to have. But integration was not the best with like software and stuff at the time. Yeah, and then of course culturally, because I was in a different country, right? Like despite the fact that, Canada and the US we're kind of brother and sister in the fact that we're North Americans, or, sometimes people will refer to, like Americans will refer to Canadians as like, America's retarded little brother or something like that. Which I don't really think is the case, and I don't really think most Americans have that attitude. But there are cultural differences between Americans and Canadians. One of the crazy things that happened was, because I was an international student, I had to like take a Welcome to America course, It was like mandatory until I got my my advisor to be able to write a note and say, yeah, no, Nick doesn't have to take this. He's Canadian. He's from a first world country. But I shit you not, the first day was like, welcome to America. This is a bar of soap. We use it daily. Yeah, this is deodorant. You put it under your arms so you don't stink. Like,
Good
yeah,
grief.
it was just the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, I guess maybe the sad part about that is that some people actually might need that lesson. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's
Well, especially if you've never traveled outside of your country and if you're coming from, who knows, right? Because it was a very international school. There were students from every corner of the globe. But the funny thing to me was, I mean, it's an expensive school. So if you're going there, you're from like the top tier affluent families of your country. You know what soap is. You speak English well. You know, you don't need a course like that. But it was just this thing that had to happen. Pretty funny. Anyway.
So you had a good grade in that one.
Yeah, no, I was able to get a buy. Like I went to see my what do you call it? My curriculum counselor. I can't remember the specific name, but I was like
Academic
advisor. Yeah, and I was like, listen, like I really don't need to be in this class. Like this is a waste of time for them and for me. Like I need you to give me the credit and move on, because they actually transferred quite a lot of my credits from my like my music minor and a few other things that I didn't have to do. You know, certain courses, like I didn't have to do remedial music reading and I didn't have to do remedial rhythm and like stuff like that. So I was able to skip a bunch.
That helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spare. Who knew?
Yeah. Help me graduate faster anyway.
So, okay. So you went back. Let's see. So what are you up to now?
Well, okay. So, I mean, obviously fast forward 15 years, you know, it's been a long time. After finishing school, I was on tour for, I lucked out actually. I lucked out to miss graduation, but I missed graduation because I got picked up for a national tour in the U.S. and I was playing guitar on a national tour. I picked up the last leg. It was just a weird story. Like basically, the guitar player for the band broke his leg in a freak like dirt biking accident on one of their days off. And the music director for the band happened to know my guitar teacher from Berkeley and said, "Hey, do you have any students that could do this?" And he was like, "Yeah, I know 3." And I was the guy that picked up the phone. Like
well
literally,
done.
yeah. I mean, I still had to go and audition, and I passed the audition. But the audition basically was like, "Here's 3.5 hours of music. Learn it by tomorrow at 6 p.m." Okay. And so I showed up at 6 p.m. and they're like, "Cool, play this song." And I think it was like number 6 in the night. So I played through it with the band during sound check. And they're like, "Okay, cool, play number 15." And I was like, "Okay." Again, soundtrack. They're like, "Cool, do you want the gig?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Great, we go on at 8." And that was it. So yeah, so
And done.
yeah, exactly. And away you go. So I slammed right from like student life into like full on professional musician mode. Did that for a couple years. Then I was in a massive car accident, and
Ouch.
yeah, and so like I woke up 12 weeks later in the hospital, and couldn't move my arm, which I've actually recovered from. So don't get too worried. But
Okay,
that ended my touring career, and then around that time I decided, okay, well I'm gonna start to rehab and whatever else and blah blah blah, and then I moved to Japan. And I lived there. I taught English in Japan for 4.5 years, something like that. Moved back to Canada in 2010. And then in 2010, I was in Vancouver, and I was trying to get like studio work, session work, voiceover work, anything that could be creative or whatever else. I couldn't get anything. It's a hard town. If you don't know people in Vancouver, it's very difficult to make inroads. And moved to Calgary in 2013. And I've kind of worked a myriad of jobs to, put food on the table and get a roof over the head and that kind of stuff, all the while still playing music and still recording. I've been writing and producing music for television and film since 2009. And
nice.
Yeah, which has been a lot of fun. It's not it's not my full-time gig, but it's enough to take some trips every couple of years or every year or whatever, or just sock away and put in for a retirement fund. So I still do that. And then, playing in live bands, and mostly at this point, like, I'm going to be 41 in 3 days. So it's like, I'm not going to, I already had my shot. I took it and it was great, but it grow up and, kind of move on to other stuff. So, playing in cover bands and having fun and whatever. And then, this year I kind of really doubled down through a whole host of other factors with like losing my job due to the illness and, these sorts of things.
Yeah. Everybody's kind of upside down.
Yeah. So I've doubled down, and now I'm full-time composing and full-time narrating, doing voiceovers. So I narrate audiobooks, which is a lot of fun. And so I do that, and then composing music, and then of course doing like corporate videos and like production stuff for small, like I've got a consulting gig for a new music education website. So we're doing a whole series of videos and So I'm working with them on that. But yeah, it's life.
So essentially, I should have got you to do the theme for the show. Spent all those hours going over this. Look at the free and the download, and I should have just looked to you. Would have been a better song, I'll bet, too.
I even have stuff in the back catalog that's not in use that I could have just given you.
Oh, sure, you should see. Now I hear these things. I could cry. I could. But
that's all right. I'm sure you found something just awesome.
So what would you say was the best moment of back to school?
The best moment of back to school?
Yeah, when you came back, what was your highlight?
Wow, there's a lot. Okay, so do you want the real one, or do you want like the fun one for like a sizzle reel? Okay, tell you what, I'll give you both, and then you can cut. You can cut whichever
both.
One you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say I should probably say the real one, but
yeah. So, well, I mean, it's the best part I think was when I actually arrived at school. Like the first couple days, walking the halls, meeting other students, meeting teachers, and just having that sense of I'm here, I belong, I made the right choice, I did it, even though, I mean, the road was very, long ahead of me. But just knowing that I made that right choice and I felt at peace with everything that I had done that had led me to that choice. Now, the more fun answer is, so here's the very short clip is how I got to be in Fever Pitch starring Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore. So that would be the highlight. And the reason that I was able to be in that movie is because I literally ran into Jimmy Fallon while he was out jogging in the morning. So during 2004, maybe into early 2005, something like that, they were filming Fever Pitch, which is a movie about this guy that loves the Boston Red Sox, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And he was in Boston shooting the film. And I was running to class one morning late. I had my head down. I had like all the, I had a backpack full of gear. I had my guitar in a case rather than a backpack, which was stupid. And I was like looking down, focusing and trying to concentrate and think about stuff that I needed to do. And he was jogging towards me, and I just ran into him and barreled him over, knocked him flat on his ass. And I didn't even recognize him, of course. I was just like, oh shit, dude, sorry. And whatever, I helped him up and I, brushed him off. And I was like, I'm so sorry. He's like, no, it's me. Like that Jimmy Fallon thing. He kind of stood there and puts his hand back a little bit. No, whatever. And I'm like, yeah. Are you? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, did I? And he's like, yep. I'm like, dude, can I get you a coffee or something? He's like, no, I'm late. I got to finish my jog and get over to set. And I was like, wow, I'm really sorry. Like, da-da-da. And he's like, actually, do you want to be in a movie? And I was like, what? He's like, well, yeah, we're doing this like big extra scene tomorrow, and if you want, show up at Fenway Park at, I can't remember, I think it was like 3:15 or something, and ask for, I think the name was Linda. He's like, I'll sort it all out. Just show up. Just bring, like a Boston Red Sox cap and like, just plain like jeans and a white T-shirt. And I was like, okay. And so I showed up, asked for Linda, and she's like, oh yeah, you're on the list. Jimmy said something, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I was in the crowd scenes of Fever Pitch at Fenway Park when he's there proposing to Drew Barrymore in that whole scene. Funny thing, there was only about 35 of us. And what they did was actually like put us like in every other seat, and they filmed it and like took stills. And then they were like, okay, now everybody get up and move over 4 seats. And then they did the same thing again. And then through CGI, they mapped all of us together. And they had us like change hats and clothes and put different jackets and stuff on, but they mapped the whole thing and made it look like a massive stadium full of people with like 35 of us. So that was my highlight of going back to school. Has nothing to do with academia.
I'm waiting for the next guest I get on this thing to try and stand up to. By the way, this guy body checked Jimmy Fallon, followed by...
Yeah.
What? No, I wanted to go back for banking. Yeah. Oh boy, but things are going well now.
Yeah, things are going
Other
well.
than
Well, I mean, we all have resets and so forth through life, and this has been by no means my worst reset. It's definitely been a change of life pattern and so forth, but things are coming together, and I'm really lucky. I've got a wonderful supportive wife, and we've got a beautiful roof over our heads. We're safe. We got lots of food on the table. I got a paid off vehicle. We don't have any debt other than our mortgage, which is a really good space to be in versus like 99% of Canadians, I think. So I'm very happy about that, and and things are going well. And I mean, honestly, it's just like every week I seem to get like more and more work, which is awesome. As you do more audiobooks, as you do more voiceovers, as whatever you build your portfolio, more people come, more people ask, more people hire, and then the more people and the more in demand you are, the more you can charge. Right?
That's fun too. Okay.
Which is very fun.
Yeah, I can handle that.
Yeah. Work smarter, not harder. Right?
Seem to recall hearing that somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, my aim is to like work 10 hours a week but get paid like I work 80.
That's a good aim.
Yeah. At like
I could deal with that.
$350, maybe $400 an hour. I think that's a good deal. I think that's a good life.
I agree.
Yeah.
Tenfold.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh boy. So there you go, everybody. There's your story for the day, week. And everybody thank Nick, except he can't hear you. And in a moment, I hear voices. No,
yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks for having me. It was always a pleasure. It is always a pleasure chatting with you, of course.
Yeah, it's always great talking with you as well. You're pretty damned far away, so
Yeah. Hopefully, some of the listeners will have garnered some interesting tidbits out of our convo.
That would be good. Tidbits. I like those. Or Timbits. You said tidbits. My bad.
I said tidbits. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Tim
so
Hortons
knowledge
can go to hell, but that's a whole other conversation.
They did. They were bought by Americans.
They were bought by Brazilians.
On the air. Brazil.
Yeah, it's a Brazilian conglomerate.
See, now most of the managers in this area don't realize that. They all think they're American. It's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, there's like a holding company that bought, I don't know, I think there's like 15 or 20 different restaurants in that group, and they're basically a front for the Brazilian mafia. And I'm sure they have like an American, an American like management wing or something. But yeah, no, it's Brazilians.
So you know this because you did voiceovers for those. Okay,
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you, or they'd kill me. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. It's all in the news.
Alrighty, I'm gonna hit stop on the record thing.
Sure,
here.
I'll stop here.
That concludes our first ever episode of Next Adventure. I want to thank Nick Morrison, of course, for being our guest this week. He was awesome. And of course, yes, need to thank Purple Planet for their music Strong and Determined. Yes, of course, we picked the title because it symbolized, anyway. Hope everybody stays safe and as well as they may be hearing this. Take care.